Hey guys, I got another video for you. This is another conspiracy video, and basically I've once again come across a couple of events that individually might not seem like much, but put them together and you don't know. It might come up to be the next false flag attack. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of walk through how I got to that conclusion. And I'm just saying this is a possibility. I don't know if this is true. The individual events I'm about to talk about, they're true to a point, and then I'll kind of speculate a little bit. But basically, back when we had the Boston bombing, and I did a video on that a while back. But basically, at the same time, I believe it was the next day or so, possibly the same day. I can't remember back. It was I think it was April 16th or something. There was a West Texas fertilizer plant that started on fire and eventually exploded. At least that's what they want you to believe. And then apparently, what just came out was another event that happened. But let me talk about the first event first, the fertilizer plant. All right. So what we have was there was some video footage of this. There was about 3 different angles where it seemed like for some reason, and I don't know if they ever came out and said why or how, but the fertilizer plant decided to ignite and was burning a rather large fire, within the fertilizer plant area. I don't think there was that much of an explosion at that point, but later on, all of a sudden, there was a massive explosion with shockwave that damaged nearby buildings, killed and injured additional people. It was horrible. All right, but if you watch those 3 videos, and a lot of people say, "Oh, this is nonsense," but if you really watch them, and I've slowed them down tremendously. I know the quality of those videos isn't that fantastic, but if you slow them down and look to the left-hand corner of each of the videos, you can see and kind of hear the wisp, for lack of a better word, of a possible missile. That missile could have come from like a drone, possibly, most likely. And there could have been more than, if let's say that happened, let's say there was a drone, then that could have happened if they did use it. They could have used it for a couple of reasons. One reason, in the positive, would have been if they thought somehow that they were going to use the same techniques that you can use to put out an oil fire, where you have an oil well that's spewing out oil, and all of a sudden it catches fire, and now you have pretty much an unlimited torch that's going to not only burn for a long time, but is now just being fueled on all that oil you want to have, right? So what they do in those cases is you need to starve that fire quickly, right? So what they can do is they can use explosives near the actual fire so that it engulfs and steals all of the oxygen and fuel for that fire so fast that the oil fire just goes out. It actually, the explosion itself, burns up all the oil, and then eventually you don't have any fire, and you have just nothing but oil coming out, right? So they may have done this very irresponsibly, might I add, and shot it with a missile to detonate the fertilizer, to burn up all of its like fuel right away, get it over with, and then they could put the fire out. All right, that's option number 1 of one of the 2 conspiracy options there. Number 2, which I think is the correct option. I believe that there is a future false flag coming. And if you remember back at the Oklahoma City bombing, a fertilizer bomb was used at that time to take off the entire front building of the Oklahoma City Federal Building, making a huge statement. And if you wanted to make a massive fertilizer bomb, well, what's the main ingredient? Or one of the main ingredients? Fertilizer, right? Now, if you're just some person and or government agency who wants to buy fertilizer, are you going to be able to just walk into some fertilizer plant and make a transaction of fertilizer, a large transaction, suddenly, when you don't own a farm? They probably could have come up with a cover story and then bought it, but you don't own a farm, you have no reason to have that much fertilizer. You're going to go in there and buy the fertilizer, and let's say you left some witnesses behind that when you did use the explosion happened, or wherever you're going to do this another false flag, somebody at that factory or that fertilizer plant decided to speak up and say, you know what? Yeah, there was some guy who came in here and wanted like 2 tons of fertilizer. And I thought it was suspicious, but I just sold it to him. No, you're not going to do that. So here's what happens. So the government or somebody else, probably working for the government or influenced by the government, maybe Obama let in a terrorist with those, with his printout visas to anyone he wants, because he's at loose borders, wants to make a bomb, somehow interacts with somebody there, maybe the inside guy at the fertilizer plant, I don't know. And he goes there, or they pick up the fertilizer, and then they kill off the guy who knew about the transaction, the dock guy or whatever, who knows. All right, so they kill off that guy, and then they start a fire, and they figure, well, if they start a fire, knowing fertilizer, right, that it'll just suddenly explode, and kill everyone, leaving no witnesses or the inventory missing, the fertilizer they stole from inventory, saying, hey, we have 2 tons of fertilizer missing, it would cover that up too, because they would assume that the fire ate up all that fertilizer, So they start a fire, but the fire doesn't explode. They don't have the blast that they need. And who knows, maybe the fire departments were going to be able to put out the fire, kind of like September 11th, the first one around, where the fire chief was talking about, I could probably put this thing out with a couple of hoses, and then they had to blow up the towers or whatever. So they got this fire, it's not actually exploding. So what do? They have to ignite it, right? So they fire in probably a Hellstorm missile from an unmanned drone into the fertilizer plant, igniting the fertilizer, causing the massive explosion that you saw. All right, because if you watch those videos from those angles, man, that looks like a missile. I don't care. You go watch the video and watch and listen and slow it down as much as you can, and you will see a flash of light coming from the left-hand side of the frame, coming inwards, and you can tell that it's not part of the actual fire. But that's what I saw. That's a lot of other people saw. That's not what the liberal's going to see. The liberal's going to just deny the whole thing. The liberal's going to say that I'm crazy. I expect that. All right, but let's assume that that's what happened for the sake of argument, or stop watching the video. I really don't care. But all right, let's say that's what happened. So they cover their tracks. They stole a large amount of fertilizer, and now they're planning their attack. And some people say it might be the Hoover Dam might be the next thing, that they will just blow the dam because there was some type of symbolism somewhere. I don't remember where I saw it, but where they showed that the next thing would be the Hoover Dam. I think it was in the back of like a $10 bill or something, some folding of the currency that has these like premonitions, whatever, that show these future things. Like there's one where you fold like a $20 bill or something, and it's like you can see the Twin Towers on fire and smoking. But now they got this fertilizer. They're going to need some detonators and some actual explosives to work with the fertilizer, because you really can't just throw a bag of fertilizer at a building and it just explodes, right? So check this out. So in the same around the approximate time frame, I should say, there was a theft of 500. Actually, it's the correct number is 559 pounds of explosives. I'm not sure why Fox said 500. They probably rounded down, although it's kind of closer to 600. So. But in either case, 559 pounds of explosives from a federal storage facility in Montana. All right, and I'm not going to read the whole article to you. Go look up these articles. There's one at Fox. There's one on Before It's News. There's one at this Billings something or other, but Gazette. Sorry. But basically, they said that it was sometime in April it was stolen. Right. So sometime. I cannot find any article that says the exact date. They just say sometime in April. Well, the ATF didn't even offer an reward for this thing until like May 1st. And they're saying they're going to give $5,000 for information to, I guess, track down these explosives that were stolen. All right? So these explosives were stolen from a federal storage facility. Look at this. A federal storage facility. All right, so they sit on this news. They don't like get this on out there immediately to say, hey, some explosives were just stolen. Amber alert for anyone driving a truck that looks like it's carrying explosives. No, they sit on this to try to probably get their right cover story and frame anyone they need to, and then they come out with this $5,000 reward. So they look like they're not trying to cover their freaking tracks, right? So what I think is happening here is the same people stole fertilizer from the West Texas fertilizer plant, covered their tracks by blowing that up, killing any witnesses involved. Then they went up and or a different individual or group of individuals went up or came from Montana and went ahead and stole 559 pounds of explosives. The federal government didn't just give it to them and then they suddenly had an inventory shortage and some honest person realized that there's 559 pounds of explosives suddenly missing when he probably did some inventory check. All right, and they're going to combine these explosives and detonators with that fertilizer, and they're going to take out some target. They're probably going to take out something big this time. And, like I said, there's been rumors that the next attack would be on like something like the Hoover Dam or something that would cause not only the damage from the actual explosion itself, but, other damage, like if you blew the dam, that would probably flood some stuff, cause additional damage and loss of life, a big statement. Plus you'd lose that power plant because the Hoover Dam is a hydroelectric power plant, and you would lose that as well. So this is what I think happened. It's two events: the fertilizer plant explosion, plus this theft of actual explosives and detonators. You need to combine the two to make this thing work for them. And somebody, either the government, an agency funded by the government, and or a group of individuals, most likely influenced and allowed to run around like the government, like a bunch of hoodlums, are going to go ahead and cause these false flags so that they can declare more martial law and slowly, one by one, attack our cities and bring in those super troopers into all of our homes, door by door, looking for something and stealing, trying to take your weapons or find out things. And they're just doing these drills. So, this may or may not be true, but mark my words, if there is a large explosion somewhere, a bomb going off that's involved with a large amount of fertilizer and explosives, I guarantee, I guarantee, that this was somehow related. That this was the explosives, that was the fertilizer that caused this next attack. And the government is just letting this happen, all right? They are a tyrannical government that is trying to take over the United States and force their beliefs down our neck. And if Barack Obama, that village idiot from Kenya, likes communism, then why doesn't he get on a boat and go over and see Kim Jong-un? Because Kim Jong-un, that tattoo from the fantasy island over there, would more than likely let him come over there, and Barack Obama could get lessons with Kim Jong-un from Dennis Rodman how to shoot some hoops. Because what was it? Barack Obama shot 22 baskets and made, I believe, 2. That proves he's not black and that he's a Muslim. Because if he was a black man, and I'm sorry to be a little bit racist, but man, black people, African Americans, can shoot the hell out of a basketball hoop. All right, so this is the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed it or thought it was ridiculous, because I even think by now it's ridiculous listening to it. And I've been drinking a bottle of vodka most of the way through this, because every time I took a new take at making this video, I took another shot. So I'm a little bit intoxicated and a little bit ridiculous. But once again, if there is an explosion in the near future, and or close to distant future, I suppose, whatever, those were the explosives, and that was the fertilizer that was used to make that bomb. And we knew about it ahead of time, and they're just out there waiting for their opportunity. All right, guys. See you next time. I'm out.